Greetings and welcome to another episode of Association Matters, the official podcast of PCAE for conversations on governance, leadership, and impact in the association sector. When associations thrive, societies rise. So we are your host. I am Bobby.
And I am Emily. And the topic for today's podcast is publications as a member engagement engine. Publications act as a powerful member engagement engine by fostering community, providing value, and encouraging active participation through curated content, research, and interactive platforms. Associations use publications ranging from traditional print, digital articles to in-depth research to keep members informed, connected, and emotionally invested in their association.
So to help us unpack this topic, we are featuring the Singapore-based TTG Asia Media, the leading travel and tourism publisher and event organizer in Asia and the Pacific region. Established in 1974, its scope of business encompasses leisure trade, luxury travel, corporate travel, meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibition, or MICE for short, and the association domains.
We are pleased to have with us today Ms. Karen Yue, who Group Editor of TTG Asia Media's TTG Travel Trade Publishing Business Unit, in a position she has held since 2012. Amongst other responsibilities, she leads a team of almost 20 editors, reporters, correspondents, and editorial service staff across Asia Pacific, and upholding editorial quality for a stable of at least 6 titles. Under her charge, these publications have won several PCAAE Gold Awards, a recognition of editorial quality.
So hi, Karen. It's been a while since we've seen each other for many years. So thank you for gracing our podcast. So to start off our conversation, our first question is, how do you think can publications strengthen the association's image and impact to its members and the general public at large? You might cite stories or case studies and examples.
Thanks, Bobby, for the question, and also thanks to both Bobby and Emily for the opportunity to speak on your podcast. Now, to your question, we need to remember that a publication's core purpose is a communications device. So no matter the form it takes, as a communications device, it serves to inform its target audience of what the association does and to reinforce the association's goals. So it is a useful channel to connect the association with its target audience, which primarily would be its members, and other stakeholders could be the sponsors or the general public, really depending on the intended use of the publication. And therefore, it's important to not only understand what the target audience wants in terms of content, but to also design content strategically to achieve the association's own goals. So I like to group content into 3 broad categories. So first would be, the most obvious news. So this would be recent developments in the industry that the association is serving, as well as recent association activities, both inward and outward facing. So news content are useful to demonstrate the association's awareness of what's happening in the industry itself and the strong engagement that it has with its members and the general public. The publication could obtain news content through first-hand interviews, press releases, member updates. And the second type of content category would be leadership profiles. So these would be features that put the association chief and its chapter heads, as well as industry opinion leaders at the forefront and deep dive into their thought processes. Such features are a valuable form of content to demonstrate the association's role in shaping changes and to position association leaders and key partners as prominent influencers. These features also help members to better understand big picture impacts on their profession or their business. Then the third content category is what I term special features. So this is a very broad set of content that can take varied forms, from investigative reports to case studies on specific topics that matter to your target audience, editorial opinions, listicles or roundups. So a variety of them can be deployed within each issue of the publication, again depending on the strategic objective of the organization. Now, no matter what the content design is, the editorial team behind the publication must establish guidelines to news selection and presentation. For a publication to be sustainable, it needs to be trusted by its target audience. And this trust will come from, content that consistently demonstrates balanced and factual reporting, transparency and accuracy. Well, of course, Bobby, in an ideal world of journalism, news is free of influence by corporate interests and government, right? But,
Right.
for association publications, publications that are regarded as a source of revenue, upholding this editorial independence while serving advertisers or sponsors will require very careful curation. And I feel that the editorial team may wish to limit commercial influence to specific content sections, such as leadership profiles or opinion editorials, so as to have a fair balance of content.
That's a really strong foundation. And I guess if we look back at the history of associations, that's one of their core elements that they offer their sector, is that communication piece and providing those pieces of information to the wider community that they support. So especially building on that around trust and internal content design, if we build on that again, there's a bit of a debate out there. So this is my next question. What's your take on publications being digital versus print, open versus member-only content? Maybe you can share some stories you might have seen.
Sure. Thanks, Emily. Now, it's important to understand that not one single format is superior over others. They each serve a purpose. So I will go through each of them to help your audience figure out which one may be best suited for them. So digital publications first, easier to produce than printed publications because the association only needs to pay for digital book software or a platform, a website or app maintenance in addition to the usual cost of content production such as graphic design fees, editorial fees, and photography. Now, digital publications are also free from the longer production lead time that printed publications are subjected to. So printers may, typically need about 2 weeks to print and deliver after the editorial team has completed the final pages of the issue. Whereas in comparison, digital publications can be generated and ready for the target audience as soon as the editors sign off. So this can be advantageous for time-sensitive content. Now, in terms of access, digital publications provide the convenience of on-the-go reading via smartphones, tablets, or laptops. Many digital publications can be downloaded ahead and then read later, even without internet connection. If an association is considering a digital publication, it may also look into hosting a news website that is populated with fresh content daily or several times a week. News websites are ideal if the association hopes to provide instant and high-frequency news updates. However, this platform will be very resource-heavy. A larger editorial team will be needed to write, edit, and publish frequently. Now, the second type you asked for is a print publication. Now, print publications incur the cost of paper stock and document printing, in addition to the usual cost of content production that I mentioned earlier on. So a larger budget for photography is also needed because when you print publications, visual quality is very important. So this photography budget could go into a paid image library or professional photographers. The benefits of print publications include longevity, which occurs when publications are displayed or shared with several readers over a longer course of time. They also offer tangible interaction where readers can touch and smell pages and appreciate the color vibrancy of printed images. The tactile nature of print publications, especially when quality paper stock and color printing is used, may also convey a sense of prestige for the readers. Print publications are believed to be able to achieve focused engagement with the reader and also great for long form content because you are holding on to a publication, you're focusing your time on reading it, whereas with something on the device, you may be distracted by ads or other pop-ups that may occur. Now, the downside to print publication is the longer production lead time and content will need to be less time sensitive. You also asked about open access versus member-only access. So open access publications refers to free and unrestricted access. So this is great if the association intends to reach a wider audience and achieve higher visibility amongst target audience. Member-only publication refers to subscription-based model, and this is ideal if the publication offers academic research and intense data analysis, all of which could incur more resources to produce. So there is always a hybrid possibility I see, where associations may place deep dive features behind a paywall. Associations deliberating on their publications format will need to consider available resources and communication objectives. So if your association needs a publication mostly to inform members of, association activities and developments among members, and at the same time relies on an existing secretariat staff to double up as editorial staff, then a simpler digital format may be a good idea. Now, if the publication is one of the key revenue generators for the association and is used as a deliverable for sponsorship packages, then a higher quality product will be needed. in such cases, a print publication with a better paper stock should be considered.
Right. Great. So you open up our third topic or question, which is on revenue generation. So as you know, it's an important issue for association is around revenue generation. So our question is, based on your experience as a group editor for TTG Asia Media, how can associations generate revenue from publications?
Okay, Bobby, so I'll give you a few examples. So the first example would be the most straightforward and common would be the advertising and paid subscription model. However, I must say that these two sources of revenue is increasingly challenging when the internet has made information available for free, while the rising cost of business has put a downward pressure on marketing and advertising budgets. So associations will need to demonstrate advertising ROI to advertisers who are increasingly impatient to see results from their advertising dollars. To encourage paid subscription, the publication has to show content value by offering, intelligent analysis and insights that are not easily found on free media platforms. I mentioned the hybrid blend of open and subscription earlier. So it's something that associations can consider. They can arrange for special reports or special editions to be only available with a paid subscription. So that's one channel. The second channel for revenue is editorials and native content. So these are paid content that are presented in an editorial style. Content may or may not be produced in collaboration with the editorial team. One way to differentiate between the two is that editorials seek to get a direct and immediate response from the target audience, such as sign up now for this workshop, whereas native content, on the other hand, seeks to inform and position the association's brand first so that positive action from the target audience may come later. Another channel is sponsorship. So this can be a sponsorship of a regular column in the publication where the sponsor may or may not dictate the scope of content. So there are several ways to this. So first, the sponsor may pay for a regular column related to the segment of the industry it serves. For example, a software company sponsoring a regular technology column in the association publication. The second way is a sponsor may sponsor a regular column on broad topics and arrange for its leadership to be prioritized for interviews where suitable. A third way is a sponsorship could be for a one-time special insertion in the publication where content is produced in collaboration with the editorial team. And another very important and valuable way to get revenue from publications is a cross-platform sponsorship. So, a lot of associations would have their own meetings and events through the year. And I see possibilities of events seeking out sponsors and offering publication exposure as an added benefit for their money spent on the event. In a way, it sort of like extends the reciprocal support for event sponsors. So these are a few channels that you can look at.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you, Karen, for taking the time to talk with us. I've personally learned something new during this chat. As always, we wrap up with 3 key takeaways for our viewers. So number 1 is I heard their publications are strategic communication tools. A well-designed publication helps an association inform, influence, and most importantly, connect. By combining industry news, leadership profiles, and deep dive features, associations can demonstrate relevance, showcase thought leadership, and keep members engaged with both the organisation and the broader profession. Number 2 is format should follow purpose and resources. There's no single best format. There's only, I think, what's best for the association. Digital publications offer speed, accessibility, and lower cost, while print provides prestige, longevity, and deeper reader engagement. Associations should align format, digital, print, open access, or member only with their communication goals and available editorial capacity. And lastly, third, publications should also can also become revenue platforms. Beyond advertising and subscriptions, associations can generate income through sponsored columns, advertorial, or native content, special paid reports, and that cross-platform partnership tied to events, which I thought was a very, very interesting idea. When done well, publications can both engage members and contribute to the association's financial sustainability.
Excellent summation, Emily. And again, thank you, Karen, for guesting in our podcast. So thank you for the viewers. Thank you for joining us on Association Matters, where governance, leadership, and impact come together. Because we believe that when associations thrive, societies rise. This podcast is brought to you by Philippine Council of Associations and Association Executives and by Membis AMS.
Subscribe to our podcast and visit the PCAAE website for updates and full episode notes. Until next time.
Bye.